Hey, hockey heads, it's your buddy chopping on with the DFS Minute NHL style brought to you by DFSArmy.com, your one stop shop for all things daily fantasy sports. Head down to the comments section, visit the link if you want to become a VIP and trigger the content tools and coaching that are turning Joes into DFS pros every single day. Easiest thing to do, the coupon code CHOP triggers a 20% off discount of the VIP pricing and gets you into the coaching forums where we discuss hockey, NASCAR, baseball, basketball, every sport, every single day. I'm going to run down really, really quickly and see. I haven't looked at any NHL news yet. I do know the trade deadline was yesterday. I do know things are a lot jacked up, but I want to see if I can't find where some of these things might land today. Boston looks like they've got a good implied team total. I might be looking at that top line, of course. If I was going to scroll down a little bit more, it doesn't look like Montreal and Vancouver are going to give me much. Tampa Bay looks like they're in a pretty good spot, so I would be looking at the top line there. Maybe down here, bottom of the second line, Cirelli and Killorn might be an interesting little pair, but I'd probably stay focused on that top line if I could. New York Rangers, Islanders. Islanders just picked up Peugeot. I don't know what line he might factor into, if he's in there and in the mix yet or not. Like I said, I haven't looked today, but they would be very intriguing to me with how he would fit into the mix. Top line, Lee, Barzal, Everly. I know, really hard stuff, right? Focus on the top line, focus on the top line. You might correlate a little bit with the power plays, but I'm really looking to see if anything stands out. Philadelphia's in a good spot facing San Jose. That'd be a fun one today. I might look down here. Okay, there's some line one action and some line two action. So Lawton, Hayes, and Konechny are also in play. Philly one and Philly two might be what I'd be looking for. Washington, geez, a lot of high implied team totals today. My goodness, how are you going to sift through the junk? Wow. Good old line one. Line two is always viable in Washington as well. This is just a big, big slate, guys. It's really going to be hard to split the hairs to find might leave some. I mean, you might even see a Carolina jump out, but I would stick to anything I can find over a 3.5, closer to a 4 in the implied team total section. And I'd probably ignore a lot of other things unless I found something, like I could squeeze in a Kubalik as either a one-off or tie him into Kane on the power play here in Chicago. Might be an interesting little tournament play. But on big, big slates like these, ownership is really not your concern. Just nutting the play is your concern. Because when you get 13 games of 3 lines, maybe 4, 3 defensive pairing, power play stacks, line 1, line 2, line 3 type stacks, 5 or 6 games that are very, very viable and tempted and showing signs that they're going to go off, I mean, you're just going to have to guess right. I hate to say it, but I don't know anybody that can actually be that precise with this many options out there. I don't care what they tell you. They may tell you that they like their picks, and that's great. But in a volatile sport like hockey, at the end of the day, it's a Yahtzee cup. You're going to throw the dice in there, shake them up, roll them out, and hope that you catch the right stuff. So you're going to have to set up your optimizers with a little bit of spread to them, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. 3.6, St. Louis is in play. Top line there is not bad. Scroll down here a little bit and see that Pareko's been on fire. You might include him in some of your stacks. 4.6 for Nash. Wow. All right, this is where a lot of the chalk is going to go. I would go looking at Nashville's goals for number, especially in their last 10 games, and say, I just don't know if this is true. I know Ottawa's bad. But are they this bad that we can give 4.5 goals to Nashville when they don't have much of an offense to really do much? Unless I see some really, really hot runners here, I would say no. I might take somebody like a Roman Josi as a one-off to everything, being that he has such a high floor and can score goals, and then I might just run away from that offense, to be honest with you. That feels just like a trap to me. If you really wanted to be stupid, you could stack the Ottawa Senators. They gave away a lot of their players, but you could stack them and hope for the upset. But I just don't think the game's going to go like 6-2 in favor of Ottawa to give you that kind of leverage based on the goals the other teams are implied to score tonight. Minnesota, probably not. 3.2 is a good number, but it's just a little too low today. Arizona at home, they're always a sneaky GPP type of play. Vancouver or Florida's offense typically not great. Goals against at 3.37. So, worse stacks can be had. Like I would stack Arizona before I stacked Ottawa. Scroll down a little bit. Anaheim, nothing. Edmonton, interesting. They've already got the old double A on that top line. Drops Draisaitl and Yamamoto. The Yamamoto I saw was out, so we might want to scratch that. Draisaitl, Hopkins down here in the line 2. These 5 guys are all viable. If you can find that 6th guy that slots in there with Hopkins and Draisaitl, talk about cheap exposure. That ends up being like I don't know if Chason's even active, but if it ends up being something like that, or a Cassian, somebody that was earlier in the season paying uh, cheap prices but playing up with those bigs, that would be a nice little value one-off today potentially. Scroll down a little bit more. Is that it for our games today? All right, so let's pick a couple. Let's go ahead and say Arizona, just for shits and grins. And I'm not calling this as my shot, but if I did, I would say somebody like Garland with his 3 goals, 3 assists on 9 shots and blocks, up there with Hall and Dvorak. That would be so Garland, Hall, Dvorak. I'm going to pick a couple of these because I want to show you, and that's going to be a value type of stack. If you remember here, we had the FanDuel Stack Finder that also showed you the prices of the lines so that you could see who's estimated to bring in some value. There's Anaheim. Is that Anaheim or is that Columbus? This is Columbus 2. Defensive pairing here. Decent San Jose. Interesting. I don't buy it. But these would be ways to find these lines and key in if you're going to stack the full line. We went through that in a previous video. You can look back through the channel. But I would be more focused on these bigger teams. Like I said, I personally would probably fade, other than Josie. I'll put him in as a one-off and see what happens. But I would probably, and Kubalik, I'm going to write those guys down. And then I'm going to scroll down here. Blues, I don't know. I mean, I could play them. Let's look for some just because I'm a St. Louis guy. Why not? Huh? I don't think. No, their style lately has been. It's against Chicago though. Ugh, see, this is the splitting hairs that you're going to go through. All right, for shits and grins, Schwartz, O'Reilly, Shen, Pareko. No, I'm just going to include Pareko. I'll include Pareko. If I wanted to, I could run a pair with Schwartz. If I look up a little bit, Detroit, New Jersey, no. Carolina, this is going to be really chalky, but when ownership doesn't matter, stick with what's going to work. Washington 1, that's Ovechkin and anybody correlated with him. Washington 1, Washington power play 2. So we'll load, let's see if we can find some of the hotter ones here. Wilson, Oshie. So we'll look at that one. Then we'll pick out maybe 1 or 2 more stacks and go set it up. I'll pause the video so we can catch up. Philly's kind of sexy. They're really going to do something against San Jose. Giroux, Couturier, I'm going to just put Philly 1 and Philly 2. I really wanted Tampa Bay for a reason. God, Islanders would be sexy. But if I look over here, maybe not giving up enough defense in the New York Rangers. There, Tampa Bay looks good. Line 1, TB1. And see, it's just too easy because I left out Boston. It's crazy to leave out Boston. They're slate breakers. But let's go ahead and do that. Let's just call some of these. We'll go set up the domination station for hockey here. And I will come back and catch you guys in a minute when I get some things set up, show you what I did. All right, back we are after that pause. To be honest with you, that pause was 20 minutes. And 10 of it was probably running the optimizer because our optimizer crunches a lot of moving pieces, and honestly, it is slow. It's something DFS Army is working on. So it's a good thing we don't have late lock scratch news most of the time like NBA or whatever, in that it really needs that speed up towards the end. We can do this at 3 in the afternoon. Things won't change much. Anywho, let's scroll down and show you the setup after we liked some of those plays in the research station. And again, I'm not set on this. I'm just showing you. I picked out a few things. I'm just showing you what I typically do when I find things I like. I went position by position by position, unchecked the 4. I don't like line 4. I made 25 trial lineups, 4 uniques, because it forces in different lines. If I'm stacking 3 by 3, 4 unique players will force that 4th unique player in there, which will swap out the centers usually and make it 2 different lines that I'm stacking. Point is, I use tournament mode to spread exposure out. I do use a lot of randomization in a random sport like hockey. And then we scroll on down. We start setting our stacks. I use controlled stacking by name because I want to control who I want in there. I don't want it just picking line 1 or line 2. Our data provider on the lines is kind of crappy sometimes, so we have to do a lot of manual stuff on the back end to make sure it's fairly accurate, and I take all of that away. I don't leave any of that to chance. I just put the names in there myself. Plus, I like to run smaller stacks because I look through that I look through that research station and I pick my players out, who's running hot right now. It's just how I tend to do things. You can play the regression game when somebody hasn't scored for a while and bank on them scoring. Like we got a goal or two in 3 games out of Ovechkin who hadn't scored in 5 games. That's an obvious regression play where you know Ovechkin's not going to be cold for long. I set up 3 on one side and 2 on the other. Now the trick to remember when you're double stacking is this side has to add to 100 and then this side has to add to 100. And that will have 100% of these stacks in my lineup and 100% of these pairs in my lineup. That's only 5 players. The domination station is going to go mixing and matching and doing other stuff. If I see a 3x3 stack, it's because one of these pairs got teamed up with a player that the optimizer also liked and made it a 3x3. It allows me what I would consider more flexibility in building my hockey lineups. That said, it's a pretty shotgun approach to hockey, but I don't care because hockey is such a volatile, random sport. And I did not add to 100% this time for the sake of running the optimizer just to get 25 lineups in there to walk through. So 20%, 20%, 15, 15, 15. What is that? 45, 65, 85%. I could have juiced these up a little bit closer to 100. 15, 20, 20, 15, 20, so that's 30, 50, 90. That'd be closer. I should put 5% on somebody over here anyway. If I leave 5 to 10% open for wiggle room, a lot of times it will get me through all of those lineups that I want. And I don't mind some random pairs and one-offs and weird goofy lineups because we see those win on occasion too. And if you're going to MME this thing, you want it to be more wide open than restricted. I don't want to put too many restrictions on this thing. It caps my lineups. It means I ran 50 and it only gives me 33. And then I don't know what to go unrestrict to make it right. It just leads to a lot of headaches. So I tend to start loose and then tighten up as I go, as I rerun the machine. Now, when I scroll down through, you can see the names. I mean, whatever. I focus on, I told you Arizona just for kicks, Washington, Philly 1, Philly 2, Tampa Bay 1. Threw some of those names in there, threw Carlson in there with these guys, threw Oshie in here. He's not on the line 1, but he correlates well with them. I don't care which 3 of these guys I get. I want 3 of them. Then here's the pairs over here. 2 of the 3 would be great. These 2 will be in every St. Louis stack that I see that is generated by me, not the optimizer. These 2 of these 3 will be in any Philly pair that I see. Boston, I threw some Boston in there, and I threw Tampa Bay in there because I like these guys, and Kucherov and Point correlate really, really well. Through the season, most of these 2 guys' points have attached to each other. If you want to know what that is, we have an NHL goal correlation matrix. Flash, there's your top 20, there's your top 20. You can certainly use that if you're a VIP to dive in here and start building correlated lineups. After I scroll down a little bit, I put a max exposure of 40% on my goalies. I put a max exposure of 60% on everybody else. I guess all the goalies came to the top. There's the 60%, guys. That puts me at a cap of 60% most of the time. And it forces a couple of 2 or 3 goalies into my mix all day long because I don't trust goalies anymore. I don't like the crapshoot that has become goalie and knowing who's going to get the win, who's going to have the shutout, who's going to take a lot of shots. I'm not even figuring that crap out anymore. I want my stacks have more upside. I want my stacks to do the lifting. If the goalie works out, he works out great. So I need to make sure he's starting. I don't know if Bernier is starting or not. I just need to know the goalie is starting. That's one thing I'll do later on today is I'll go back and make sure they're confirmed as starting. So Kucherov's obviously a big one. Oops, I didn't show you what I do is I take the guys that I like. Sometimes in a lot of the stacks that I'm correlating or whatever that I'm trying to build, and I like those guys. I put 15% boosts on their projections. See, like Nugent Hopkins, we talked about a little bit. We didn't talk about any of these guys. Bergeron, we could have. He'd be a great one-off. By sometimes doing that on teams that I'm not associated with, Braden Point, Barzell. See, like I didn't say anything about the Islanders, but I jacked his percentages anyway because if he popped in as a one-off and not part of a stack, I'd be okay with that. But Couturier is part of my stack. Eller, if he popped in as a one-off, great. Kuznetsov, if he's part of it, great. I don't mind. I do it especially with defenses, because I do try to correlate my defense to my wings and my centers when I can, but I'm not too paranoid about it. I hate double defense as a formation. I would much rather see a one-off. See, like I didn't include any Nashville, but I juiced up the projections of Roman Josi. We should see some Roman Josi in those stacks. Carlson, Hedman, these guys man the point in their power plays. Pulak, Nurse, Pareko's hot. I don't mind if he's not in a stack. If he's just a one-off that flits into my lineups, it's fine. Krug, fine. So by liking these guys, boosting their projections, I increase the chances of getting them in there. There's Roman Josi as a one-off right there. Brad Hunt came out of nowhere. Just a punt. That's fine. If the optimizer likes him, great. Stepan is another one. I had Dvorak, Hall, and Garland, so he came as a one-off. Interesting. Brock Nelson is a one-off. See, this lineup is not stacked or correlated, really. It's got Nelson and Anders Lee, who correlate on the power play, but that's literally it. So that lineup is one of those that was not totaling up to 100% on the left and 100% on the right. It just popped in there. Fine. If I wanted to, I could delete the trash. I could just come over here, click the trash can, and boom, out he goes. Once he disappears, the next one slides up to the top, and this one is a little bit more correlated. Coleman and Kucherov is a pair power play correlation. Vetrano, Josie again, Pareko is one-offs, Draisaitl is a one-off, and then a mini pair in Nelson and Barzal. So this is a correlated lineup. That would be fine. Scroll down a little bit. There's a couple of non-correlated. Hagelin. See, I don't like that. So I could probably delete this lineup too and get rid of it. But at least I got 25 lineups to pick from. Stepan, Barzal, Ellis, Josie, Double D. I don't typically like that, but Hall and Stepan are sort of correlated. There's a one-off in a Shark. There's a one-off in Greenway. I'm not a fan. Get rid of it. You can go through all of your lineups and do this and look for these correlated guys. See, like here's Draisaitl and Nurse. That's fine. Pareko, one-off. Pasternak, one-off. Great. LeBlanc, I can handle. Kuzitz, Wilson, Barzell, Stepan were sort of on my list. Fine. I'd keep that one. Larkin, I'd probably keep this one because it's got three Oilers all on the 1-1. Draisaitl, Nurse, Hopkins, with Blake Coleman as a value one-off. Eberle in there on the 1. LeBlanc, it's okay. Victor Hedman is a defenseman. This is okay. This isn't great, but it's okay. Nelson, I'm looking for more correlation. I would love to show you more correlation. There's three capitals. Carlson, Ovechkin, Wilson. Those are correlated. Stepan is I don't know what the projections really like him. There's a cop and there's a pair, Hedman and Kucherov. So this one came out exactly like I wanted. Came out with a 3-stack and a 2-stack with the players that I wanted in it, and then it filled in with some one-offs. Fine. I'll let the projections do some of the work too. 3 here. 2 here. Point and Kucherov as opposed to Kucherov and Hedman. Fine. I mean, Nola Kari, whatevs. I'm not all that worried about that. I want my stacks to work. There is a Hall, Garland, Dvorak stack. We had that one listed, right? Barzal is fine. Nurse and Draisaitl are correlated. Fine. Schwartz and Pareko. So that gave me basically a 3-stack, a 2, and a 2. I like that lineup. That one has a fighting chance tonight. 3 Arizona Coyotes again. Point Kucherov is beautiful. One-off in Josie, one-off in. These are great. This is a great lineup. Vetrano's my only punt price guy. It's great. Just need a good game out of the goalie. Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Carlson, Schwartz, Pareko, one-off, one-off, one-off. See, I can go back in and I can take a Connor Brown or a Stepan out by taking their projections and reducing them and then running again, or unchecking them and taking them completely out of my player pool and then running the optimizer again if I want that kind of control. And guys, you want to know what the pros do? The pros go through these things with fine-tooth combs and they run it and they run it and they run it and they tweak it and they run it and they run it and they keep doing that until they get a player pool that they like and they throw it out there. Howla might not be too bad, but there's 3 stacks, Stamkos, Kucherov, and Point, the line 1, with Schwartz and Pareko, with Darnell. It's fine. It's my 3x2. 1, 2, 3. There's a 4th guy. So Eller up there with Oshie, Wilson. I would have rather seen Ovechkin on here with Eller because on the power play 2 they correlate a little bit. This is literally a 3-stack and a one-off from the same team. That's interesting, but it does work. Couturier, Voracek, fine. And then it is what it is. Josie's a one-off again. Boston pair, Washington 3-stack. Powerful lineup. Up there it is. Kuznetsov, Hagelin's the random guy there. It's not the worst thing in the world. There's 3 Philly guys we mentioned. There's a Boston pair, and there's Wilson is a one-off, LeBlanc is a one-off. Pasternak is a one-off is great. Josie is a one-off is great. So you can see where I'm correlating my lineups. I'm kind of playing with things. 3 3 Coyotes, 2 Bruins, and then a few one-offs. 2 Lightning, 3 Coyotes, 2. That's a 3-2-2. I like it. 3, 2, one-offs. Fine. 3, 2, 2 in Hedman and Coleman. Fine. So that's all you're doing. You're just policing your lineups to make sure. And if you like what you see, you delete what you don't. You like what you see, you crank them out of there and you throw them in some stuff. I may build 50, 60 lineups like this tonight, but I'm going to police them all. I'm going to see that my guys are showing up in there most often. I'm going to see where the optimizer's throwing guys in there. If the optimizer's throwing guys in there that I don't like or that I know aren't really necessarily performing very well, I can go back in and I can reduce their projections or I can eliminate them from the player pool and I can run it again. If I'm not seeing enough of a guy. Like I really liked Pasternak tonight as a one-off. I could take his projection and throw it through the roof to 20, 25 points, and then I could put a limitation of, say, instead of 60% exposure on him, I could put 40% on him. And I could get him in every single lineup that way too. I know we're running short on time. I'm going to let you go. It's been 20 minutes. This is how you use these optimizers to work the MME style. You have total control at a place like DFS Army. There are other places that do similar things, but this is what I'm familiar with. This is what I like to use, and I think that you would like it too. And enough that we can coach you on the tweaks and how to use these things and how to generate some leverage if you like a certain player or whatever in any of these sports, from NASCAR to PGA to MMA to NHL. It doesn't really matter. You come inside dfsarmy.com, you hit the coupon code down there in the bottom chop, and you click like and subscribe to the channel if you like this content and like what I share. Hopefully it works for you. I'm going to mess with these mixes a little bit. I'll be out there playing hockey tonight. Second place in 28,000 person GPP here last week or so, and then earlier in the year, fourth in a 217,000 person NBA MME turn. It's guys, it's just you're getting your core through and you're letting some deep runners do the work for you. Hopefully you hit some of those heavy lifting lineups as well and you boost your ROI, because that's what it takes to encourage you to keep playing. You're going to play 10 to 14 days with a whole bunch of mediocre results, and finally you'll have a day that wins. It may take a month, it may take 2 months, it may take 3 months, but I'm telling you, you may never win a 200 some odd thousand person tournament, but you get in there into the top 5 people one time and it will make your year for that buy-in level that you're playing. It will throw your ROI so high that you'll be coasting on house money the rest of the season. Hopefully we see you on the inside, dfsarmy.com, learning to play a different way and turning Joes into DFS pros. Peace out, guys.